Alright, so moving on to skill 4-4, which is going to be kind of the starting point for our next method for graphing. Okay, so we've already have our two methods for graphing. The first one's graphing by table. The second one is graphing by using x and y intercepts. Okay, our third tool is graphing by using slope-intercept form. So for this skill, we're just going to talk about how do we calculate slope. What is this thing called slope? Okay, so that's what this skill is all about. Okay, slope is what we consider the steepness or the angle of a line. The best way to think about slope is thinking about a ski slope. Okay, it's on a mountain that kind of goes at a diagonal. Okay, so when we're talking about slope for a line, we're talking kind of about the angle at which this line is moving. Okay. With slope, when you're working with it algebraically, it'll be denoted as the letter M. Okay? Anytime you see the letter M, that 9 times out of 10, it stands for slope. Okay? Well, slope has an equation. Okay? Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? Now, probably a lot of you are thinking, okay, whoa, where are we getting this y1, y2, x1, x2? Okay? Well, where it comes from is points on a line. The way we're going to calculate slope is by using 2 points. Let's say a point here and a point here. Okay? Now, if you remember, the coordinates of a point are x and y. So if I'm using 2 points, that means I'm going to have 2 x values and 2 y values. So these points you're going to get is x1, y1, as well as you're going to have a point which says x2, y2. Okay? These are the points that we're going to get. So you're going to take the 2 ordered pairs, use their coordinates to help calculate slope. Okay? And a phrase that you're going to hear a lot of the time is what we call slope is rise over run. Okay? Rise over run. Notice how it's similar to this equation right here. Well, think about it. Which variable is rising, going up and down? Well, the y values, they go up and down. So it's kind of going rising in that direction. And then you think about run. Well, if you think about run, you're going left to right. Which variable or which axis goes from left to right? Well, the x-axis does, the x values. So that's why we call it rise over run. Okay? So that's what we're calculating, is this little change of direction. All right? So let's go ahead and do an example where we're trying to calculate slope for a line. Okay? So for this example, it says calculate the slope for the line with the points -2, -3, and 4, 9. Okay, we're going to calculate the slope of a line that goes through these 2 points. Okay? So first thing we need is our equation. For every problem you have like this, you should always write the equation. Okay? And it is M, and it equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? I want you to take notice. y2 has to be above x2. y1 has to be above x1. Okay? So now we have to decide who's going to be our y1 and who's going to be our x1, who's going to be y2, and who's going to be x2. The best way to do it is just to go from left to right. Go from left to right. -2. Okay? It's in the x value. All right? Well, it's the first x we see, so we say this is going to be x1. We go to the -3. That's a y value, a y coordinate. Okay? We're going to call that guy y1. So we have x1 and y1. Notice they're in the same point. They go together here. This is our second x value, so we say that's x2, and this is y2. Okay? So now that we know who's our x1, y1, x2, y2, we plug those values in to our equation. Okay? So y2 was 9. I write 9 minus my y1 value was a -3. Okay? Notice, you have the minus, then you put in your y value. Minus a negative. That's going to be very important in just a little bit. Then I put my fraction bar. Now next is x2. So I write 4. Minus x1, which is -2. Okay? Again, it's important that you have your subtraction sign in, then you place in your x2 value. Now, we just need to evaluate. Okay? We need to simplify this. So we're just going to use order of operations. I have 9 minus a -3. That's the same thing as 9 plus a +3. Well, 9 plus 3 is 12. Okay, good. Well, same thing. We have a minus a negative. We can change that to plus a positive. 4 plus a +2 is 6. So we have our new fraction. Well, can we keep going? Can I simplify further? You bet. We have 12, we have 6. What numbers do they both have in common? The number 6. Okay, so if we divide both by 6, we get 2 over 1. Well, we don't really need the 1, so that's just equal to 2. So, what did we just calculate? We calculated the slope for the line that contains these 2 points. And that slope is the number 2. Okay? Or, it is okay to say the slope is 2 over 1. Okay? Both are correct. 2 or 2 over 1. Okay? So, now that we've done a problem, now that you've kind of seen the process, go ahead and try this next example on your own. Again, start by writing the equation first for slope, determining who your points are, and then simplify. Go ahead and do so. Alright, so you just got done trying this problem. We'll go ahead and we'll work through it together. Okay, so again, we're trying to calculate the slope of the line that contains these 2 points. Okay, so again, I'm going to start off again, like I always do, with my equation. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? Well, now that we have our equation, we need to decide who's x1, who's x2. So again, just go from left to right. This guy right here is x1. This guy right here is y1. He's going to be x2, y2. Okay? And again, the reason for this is because x coordinate, y coordinate, x coordinate, y coordinate. Okay? I plug these values in. My y2 is -8. My y1, so y2, then my subtraction sign. My y1 is 12. Put our fraction bar. x2 is -2. And x1 is 3. Subtraction sign goes in between. Okay? So, again, now that we know this, we just do the arithmetic. -8 minus 12, well, guess what? Subtraction is just like addition. Plus a negative. Add the opposite. Add the opposite. -8 plus a -12. We have 2 negatives. It's going to be a negative for my final result. It's going to be a -20 over a -2 plus -3 is a -5. Okay? Can we still simplify? You bet. First off, we have a negative divided by a negative. So when we have two negatives and we're dividing, that equals a positive. Okay, so we no longer need the negatives now that we know we have a negative divided by a negative. 5 can go into both these numbers. So we get 4 over 1, or we could just have 4. Again, both answers are correct. Okay? The slope is 4 over 1, or the slope is 4. Okay? And again, your slope may not always work out to be a whole number. It will be a fraction from time to time. There is a possibility where you see negative 3 over 2, or negative 5 over 6, or 9 over 3. Okay? If you get a fraction, leave it as a fraction or an improper fraction. Do not change slope to a mixed number. Okay? So go ahead and write that down in your notes. Do not change slope into a mixed number. Okay? All right, well, we just have a couple more situations I want to talk about. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next example. Okay, so what we're going to do, we've been given 2 points. Again, we're going to calculate the slope. Again, what do we always start off with? Our equation, our formula. Okay? M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We work left to right with our points. This is x1. This is y1, x2, this is y2. Okay? Now that we know who our x1, x2, y1, y2 are, just plug them in. y2 is negative 6. We subtract. Our y1 is also negative 6. I put my line over it. My x2 is 3. My x1 is 5. Okay? And again, all we do now is simplify. I have negative 6 minus a negative 6. Well, add the opposite. Negative 6 plus a positive 6. That equals 0. Okay? 3 minus 5 is like 3 plus a negative 5, which is negative 2. This is an interesting situation because of what number? 0. Okay? Anytime you have 0 divided by a number, you get 0. Okay? This type of situation, notice, our y1 value and our y2 values are the same. They're negative 6. Okay? They are negative 6. So this is what we call a 0 slope. Okay? A 0 slope. Well, why is it 0? There's no, that's saying that the angle is 0. Okay? Well, what you should do, just to kind of see, is plot these 2 points and then connect with a line. Notice what type of line it is. Okay? So give that a shot. I'll do it right here. Here's my graph. Apologize, lights went out. Okay, if I take my first point, 5 comma negative 6. So I go to the right 5, down 6. needs to be about right there. And then 3 comma negative 6, right 3, down 6 again. Once we have 2 points, we can connect a line. What type of line do you see? It ends up being a horizontal line, a flat line. So the way you compare about it is a floor. We walk on a floor all day long. Okay? What type of slope is that? It's flat, there's no slope, 0 slope. Okay? So this is why we call flat lines 0 slope. Okay? Well, I have a problem I want you to try. It's going to be a little different. And then I want you to think about, okay, what type of object can I compare this to? Can I compare it to a floor, or should you compare it to maybe a wall? Okay? So, go ahead, calculate the slope for this next problem, and try to think, okay, is this a 0 slope, or should this be something else? Okay? So go ahead and pause the video and do so. Okay, so you just calculated the slope. You thought about, okay, is this 0 slope or is this another situation? So let's go ahead and try this. Write my equation. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This guy right here is x1, y1, x2, y2. We get 8 minus negative 1. I get 7 minus 7. Add the opposite. We get 9. 7 minus 7 is 0. Well, hey, can you divide by 0? No, we can't. You can't cut something into 0 pieces. It's impossible. So, this is what we call an undefined slope. Undefined slope, okay? Undefined. Well, again, I told you to kind of compare to a room, okay? Like you're walking on the floor, okay? Undefined is impossible. Well, what in a room is impossible to walk on? The wall, okay? It is impossible for you to walk on this vertical wall without falling, okay? So guess what type of line this line is? Plot the points. Here's our coordinate plane. Okay? So we go over 7, negative 1, and then we have 7, 8. Notice the x coordinates are the same. So if the x coordinates are the same, it is a vertical line. A vertical line. So what did we just learn? I want you to go back to your previous example. 0 slope is a horizontal line. Undefined slope, when 0 is in the denominator, is a vertical line. Okay, I just want you to write those down in your notes. Alright? So, this is all the information you need. Okay? So, go ahead, make sure your notes are complete. The homework assignment is up on the board. If you have questions, please go ahead and raise your hand, and make sure, if you're in my later classes, that you ask these questions tomorrow at the beginning of class. Good luck.